My whole entire wife, or soon-to-be wife's family, decide to get involved when I say that I need a prenup. They looked at me like I had two heads. They can't quite understand why I would do something like this. Well, let me explain it to you so you can understand.
Hey guys, my name's John, and I'm at the end of my rope. I need some advice, and I don't know where else to turn. There's a lot of background info to give here, so this is going to be a long one. Up until recently, things have been going great with my girlfriend, Sarah. We've been together for 3 years, and she's been living with me for some time. Not to sound cliche, but we had a picture-perfect relationship, and I decided it's time to propose. The good news is Sarah agreed to marry me. I was ecstatic, but here's the thing, guys. I don't want to brag, but I've amassed a considerable fortune. Without divulging too many details, let's just say I've been quite successful in the business world. Like anyone with assets like mine, I want to do everything I can to protect them. While I'm aware it can be a sensitive topic to bring up with your partner, I thought getting Sarah to sign a prenuptial agreement was the best course of action. I thought she'd be mature and understanding enough to see why I would want to protect my wealth, just in case the unthinkable happens and we split up. Well, as evidenced by the fact that I'm posting this, I was wrong about how Sarah would interrupt my suggestion of a prenup agreement. I didn't bring it up until the day after I proposed because I just wanted to enjoy the moment and not get into any technical planning. When I mentioned the prenup, I could tell by the look of Sarah's face that I've done something terribly wrong. Sarah's eyes started welling up with tears, and she asked me if I thought all she cared about was the money. I tried explaining my side of things and why it was totally reasonable for me to want to protect my assets. But it's like she was so insulted, she did not want to listen to anything that I was saying. She said that me even thinking about a prenup meant I must not trust her and that I must not have faith in our relationship. I could not believe what I was hearing. I was stunned by her reaction. I just asked her to marry me the night before. Of course I trusted her, but she wouldn't listen to me. After we argued for a bit, and things started to get a bit too heated for me, I decided to end the discussion and give her some time to cool off and think things over. I thought surely once she collected her emotions together and settled down that she would come over to my side, but instead, things have just been getting worse. I was hoping Sarah would just keep our personal issues to herself, but she told her parents about it. Look, Sarah's dad, Dogan, her mom, Betty, they're interesting people. They've always been nice and accommodating to me and for the most part respectful. They're a bit weird, but I never had any problem with them, but for some reason they were absolutely incensed by me asking their daughter to sign a prenup. Their anger seems so unjustified because if you ask me, my and Sarah's marriage is our business and our business only. But they've seen it fit, to insert themselves right into the drama, and frankly, it's tearing apart me and the relationship with Sarah. Here's just a few things that Dogan and Betty have been doing to me ever since Sarah spilled the beans about me asking for a prenup. It started off with Dogan and Betty pressuring Sarah to break off the engagement, and heck, the entire relationship while they're at it. All because of the prenup. Which is totally ridiculous to me, but get this. Instead of Sarah standing up for me and for the sanctity of privacy in our relationship, she loudly badmouths me on the phone with her parents while I'm around. She'll say things like, "I know, Daddy, I shouldn't put up with this." Sarah straight up told me Dogan and Betty said she should leave me. I asked her why she was telling me all this, instead of telling her parents to mind their own beeswax. Sarah told me that their daughter's marriage is their business. These types of back-and-forth arguments continued, but it was like Sarah did not even hear a single word I was saying. After that petty childishness, Dogan and Betty decided they needed to up the ante. I started randomly getting contacts from ex-girlfriends I hadn't even heard from in ages, who were telling me that two people named Dogan and Betty had called them up asking for a bit of dirt on John. I was so stunned when I found this out. It proved Dogan and Betty were stalking me on social media and grasping at anything they could find that would be maybe convincing of Sarah to leave me. To make matters worse, I told Sarah that her parents were doing this and they didn't need to be stopped, and, well, they're actively trying to destroy our relationship. Well, Sarah was too busy pouting over the prenup to listen to reason or stand up for me, so her pathetic excuse was that she has no control over her parents and, well, were reacting to me asking about the prenup. I could not believe this. As if all this abusive and invasive behavior wasn't bad enough, I'd been trying to simply put up with it until everything blew over. Well, after what Dogan and Betty did to me next, I don't see how this will ever blow over. I do a decent amount of travel all over the local metropolitan area for work. I meet with clients, consultants, analysts, and attend a lot of meetings and conferences. Well, about a week ago was an extremely busy week for me. I was out of the main office and driving from meeting to meeting the whole week. I've always been someone who's alert and pays attention to his surroundings, so of course I was eventually going to notice the red car that's been following me all week. I'm not even kidding. I parked at Taco Bell as a diversion just to see what this guy would do, and guess what? Followed me right into the parking lot. I don't think he was there for the tacos. Evidently, this PI was not great at his job. I was so enraged, I got out of my car and confronted the guy. I approached the guy's window and could immediately see that he was nervous and surprised. He thought wearing a detective-style trench coat in the middle of the summer and tailing me in a bright red car throughout the city was a good way to conduct surveillance on me. What a moron. I asked him what he thought he was doing following me around the city, and I asked him how much Dogan and Betty were paying him for this. At first, the PI denied everything, but after I ranted and raved at him for a few minutes, he finally admitted the deal was up. He even admitted that he thought Dogan and Betty seemed crazy, and he said he was getting bored following me to business meetings all week. But he said he couldn't turn down the money Dogan and Betty were offering. I pulled out my wallet, gave the man a sizable tip to stop following me, and well, he gladly accepted. I knew I had a lot more money than Dogan and Betty were willing to give up, that's for sure, and I pulled out my phone and called Dogan and Betty right then and there. Betty answered the phone and was rude from the start and said, "What are you calling us about?" That's when I calmly but firmly told Betty that she and Dogan were banned from my engagement party. No questions asked. She immediately starts barking up and just trying to talk over me, scream over the phone about the prenup and how I don't love their daughter and all this nonsense. I regret losing my cool here, but I must admit I told Betty in no uncertain terms that she needed to shut her trap and stop following me and harassing me or I would be going to the police. I told her if she said another word on this phone call, I would not only ban her and Dogan from the engagement party, but I'd ban Sarah's entire side of the family from attending. After all, I owned the property where our engagement party was going to be held. Betty could not stay quiet long enough, and she called me out, said I was bluffing. I was so thrown by the disrespectful audacity. I had to laugh. I told her if she, Dogan, and anybody else on Sarah's side of the family even came within the property line of the engagement party, I was going to have the police arrest them. Of course, Betty kept rambling and squawking like a chicken, so I hung up on her. Not 5 minutes after I got off the phone with the old bag, my phone starts ringing, and I see it's Dogan calling and texting me like a madman. I tried ignoring the calls, but they weren't stopping, so I decided to answer. Dogan immediately starts laying into me. He tells me I'm a sorry excuse of a boyfriend, a sorry excuse of a man, and that I was, quote, not allowed to marry his angel. I told him to keep dreaming and go get a hobby. He starts going on a rant about how he's got great lawyers who would love to take me down. He said he was going to sue me into oblivion and make sure I never marry Sarah. I hung up and blocked the old fool's number. I had enough of Dogan and Betty's crap. I got home, saw Sarah still moping around and pouting like a child. I was still livid and full of adrenaline from the drama concerning the private investigator and Sarah's parents, so I'll admit I flew off the handle a bit here. I and Sarah got into another huge argument over her parents harassing me. I found out she knew about the private investigator, and her excuse was that she agreed with her parents that maybe I needed to be followed because I could not be trusted. I was shocked by what I heard. I told her in no uncertain terms that I had uninvited her side of the family from the engagement party. Well, obviously, Sarah was not happy about this. She starts threatening to call off the engagement party altogether. I told her it was my property and we're having an engagement party, and maybe it's extremely clear that if I saw her parents or any of the family members, I would be calling the police. After a few awkward and uncomfortable days of me and Sarah hardly speaking to one another and sleeping in separate rooms, I came home from a hard day at work today to a surprise in my mailbox. What's funny is I bought flowers and chocolates to give to Sarah. I've been making effort after effort at reconciliation and trying to talk things through with her, but it's not working at all. And today I came home to this, which is why I'm typing this post. I opened a serious-looking envelope with a serious-looking document, and apparently Dogan and Betty are actually suing me. The document looks a bit shady, so there's hope it's unofficial, but I need some advice on what to do. That's why I've been typing all this for you today. What should I do? I've never even met anyone else who's been in a situation like this before. I've heard of drama surrounding prenups before, which is exactly why I initially approached the subject with some hesitation and care. But I've never heard of the partner's parents getting as involved as Dogan and Betty have done. I have enough stress to deal with between work and paying all the bills. And now Sarah's just sitting back and letting her parents make my life a living hell. So that's why I come to you guys today asking, what should I do? What's up, everybody? Mr. Redito here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today's story is a pretty intense situation. There's 5 updates for it. The next few updates, though, they're considerably shorter than the original post. But I do have every single update by the OP. Guys, the best way to support me is super simple. Just click that subscribe button underneath this video. And let's go ahead and jump into these updates. Here we go. Hey guys, Johnny here, back for an update. I wish I could say this is all blown over, but things just kept getting worse. I'd like to thank everyone who's commented so far. Some of you had some great advice. First, a little background info. I have an ex-girlfriend named Maria, who I've remained friends with since we split up. She's heavily involved in my business field, so we cross paths and chat quite a bit. For the record, my girlfriend Sarah has never had a problem with Maria before. In fact, they've met many times and always got along pretty well. Naturally, as often as I chat with Maria, I was eventually going to bring up this predicament I'm in with Sarah and her parents. We were recently having a few drinks after work and discussing our recent sources of stress. In our field of work, there's always stress. But this time, I had the prenup problem looming over everything else. I just started ranting and told Maria everything. The private investigator, the engagement party, the prenup, and the fact that Dogan and Betty have been contacting my ex-girlfriends. I mean everything. Maria pointed out that Dogan and Betty never called her for some reason, and she offered to call them up and put in a good word for me. I dismissed it immediately, but Maria was insistent. She truly believed she could get through to these people, and I didn't have much hope left at this point, honestly, so I told Maria that I did not think it was a good idea, but that if she wanted to call them, she could go right ahead. Call me naive, but I did not see how my situation could get much worse at this point. What could it hurt for an ex-girlfriend to call my future in-laws to vouch for me and say I'm a good man with good intentions? Surely it would reflect well on me that I maintain a decent relationship with my ex. Oh boy, how I was wrong. Even as I typed this, it seems so obvious now that I should have stopped Maria. I knew in my gut, deep down, that Dogan and Betty would not gain any sort of insight from this interaction. As you may have guessed by now, Maria calling up Sarah's parents has only made my situation worse. Frankly, until today, I had forgotten about Maria even offering to call Sarah's parents. I was in for a rude awakening today. I was sitting in the living room watching TV when Sarah stormed in with tears in her eyes. My parents just told me you're in love with some woman named Maria. I was completely flabbergasted. How could Dogan and Betty twist an act of goodwill into something horrid? Guys, now my problems are even worse. I could use some advice. Sarah's parents have convinced her that I'm cheating on her with Maria. Update number 2. I'm back for yet another update, and I have some good news and bad news to share. Thank you to everybody who's still reading. First, I've made some progress in communicating with Sarah. We've recently had our first productive conversation since the initial fight over the prenup. We still have not yet tackled the issue of the prenup, but we're able to compromise and plan for the engagement party. I agreed to uninvite Maria to party just to soothe Sarah's cheating fears. I apologized profusely to Maria for this, but she told me she completely understood. She didn't blame Sarah, she blamed Sarah's crazy parents. In exchange, I allowed Sarah to invite her extended family to the engagement party, as long as Dogan and Betty stayed far away from the premises. The day of the engagement party came along and we were trying to proceed with everything as normal. There was an awkward tension in the room that I immediately noticed and did not appreciate. Too many people in the room knew all about my and Sarah's personal business, and the whole vibe of the situation. It just already didn't sit well with me. Still, I put on a brave face and soldiered on. Despite how fake and awkward all my interactions with Sarah's family were, I cracked open another beer and kept on mingling and entertaining, as a good party host should. We were in the middle of singing engagement songs and drinking champagne. I was looking at Sarah and I was starting to relax and have a good time. For the first time in a few weeks, I remember why I'd fallen in love with this woman. Seeing her smile made me smile. We were dancing, and just briefly, I actually forgot about the all-outside drama with the prenup. That's when Dogan and Betty walked into the room. Do you know how in movies there'll be a record scratch, and all the movement in the room just stops? That's exactly what this was like. Everybody froze when Dogan and Betty showed up, which told me everybody in attendance was privy to the drama between me and these clowns. Still, I tried to be respectful and polite. I didn't want to have a public argument with my future in-laws, so I offered them greetings and situations. I offered them both champagne, wine, beer, whatever they wanted. Even though they had explicitly gone against my wishes, I was prepared to keep my cool and be an adult. Instead, what I got was 2 champagne glasses being thrown into my face. I was completely drenched. There I was, humiliated by my fiancé's parents at my own engagement party. I went completely ballistic on the 2 of them and demanded they leave the premises immediately. In front of Sarah's entire family, I told Dogan and Betty how they were the most disgusting creeps I've ever dealt with. If anyone in that room did not know me and Sarah's personal drama, they know it now. I rattled off all my grievances with those 2, and I made sure to kindly remind them that I knew their lawsuit from earlier was bogus. I told them I'd sue them if they ever showed themselves around me again. As I'm typing this right now, I'm back home from the engagement party, and Sarah's mad at me. I don't know why she can't see her parents' role in this. We're all having a great time until Dogan and Betty showed up. Update number 3. John here. I have another update, and I can't say it's a happy ending. I mainly just need to vent, and so far, you guys have been great listeners. So, when I made the initial post a few weeks ago, I was happily engaged man, who had run into a few large hiccups and otherwise spotless relationship with the woman I love. As of today, Sarah's moved out of my house and back in with Dogan and Betty. I've been so depressed I did something I never do. I took the whole week off of work. It sounds corny to admit it, but I'm so depressed right now I could hardly get out of bed. I begged and pleaded as Sarah packed up her things, but she insisted that we need to take a break right now after all that's been happening. She said she was upset by how I treated her parents at the engagement party. Not to sound selfish, but I can't for the life of me figure out why she doesn't see that they started it. They crashed our engagement party when they were explicitly told not to do so. For crying out loud, Dogan and Betty tossed champagne into my face. But Sarah could not be reasoned with. I can't believe my life has done such a complete 180, but hey, I'm coping. I've been hanging out with Maria. She's a great listener and always supportive of me. She has suggested that I need to prepare to move on from Sarah, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still holding on to hope that Sarah will come back. I've also been able to lend an ear to my best friend of a decade, Mike. He's been busy a lot, but we've been able to get together for beers and a couple of golf games lately, and he's been a great listener as I vent about my relationship struggles. I guess I'm just here to say I'm still out here and hoping for the best. At least I did find out for sure the lawsuit was fake. Ever since Sarah moved out, I haven't suffered any harassing phone calls or bullcrap from Dogan and Betty, so I've been enjoying the relative peace. But having an empty, quiet house without Sarah around is killing me. Update number 4. John here. Things just keep getting worse, and life keeps finding ways to completely blindside me. I've never felt so betrayed, so in my last update, I described how I'd been divulging information about me and Sarah's relationship with my best friend Mikey. I thought I could trust him, but oh boy, I was wrong. I just got off the phone with Sarah. I tried my best to have a civil conversation, but it was difficult. It's like I'm talking to a completely different person than the woman I've known these past few years. We tried to discuss the idea of getting back together, but Sarah said she needed more time because she was still upset with me. Well, that's when she dropped a bombshell on me. She told me Mike had been visiting her parents' house, and I asked why this was happening and why Mike never said anything to me about it. Sarah told me Mike did not want me to know because according to Mike, and I quote you, I'm not mature enough to handle it. I was blindsided. Sarah told me all about how Mike had been pressuring Sarah to break things off with me. He told her I was a bad partner and told her I was bad-mouthing her while I and Mike played golf the other day. It just got worse and worse the more I talked to Sarah. She told me Mike admitted that he has always had feelings for her. I'd never even noticed anything between them, not even the slightest hint of flirting. But unless Sarah was lying, Mike had been hiding this secret the whole time that he's known her. Mike had also told Sarah that he thought it was rude of me to have asked to sign a prenup. That's rich, because Mike had his first wife sign a prenup 8 years ago, and it saved his life in a divorce. I started freaking out, demanding to get some answers, and I just demanded she stop seeing Mike behind my back. Her response was that since I was allowed to hang out with Maria, she should be allowed to see Mike. She told me she wasn't involved romantically with Mike in any way, but she also said that, quote, anything could happen, because she's still on a break from our relationship. This was too much for me to handle. The thought of my best friend and my fiance doing anything romantic behind my back made me sick to my stomach. I was speechless, and even though I tried to find a retort for Sarah, I couldn't. I just wanted to crawl back into bed and, well, I hung up the phone on her. Maria's been very reassuring towards me, but it feels like nobody else is in my corner. I can't believe Sarah's even entertaining the idea of hooking up with Mike. I can't believe all this happened over a prenup. Update number 5. Hey guys, it's been a while, and frankly I've been trying to put this entire saga behind me, but I don't want to leave anybody hanging, so I decided to give you all the lowdown on what happened. Not long after my last update, I had a lovely evening where I wasn't feeling exactly like myself. I could not get the thought of Sarah and Mike out of my head, and all I wanted to do was drive over to Sarah's parents' house to see for myself if anything was happening. I had this feeling in my gut like I was about to be stabbed in the back. My intuition was sadly correct. I drove into the stormy rain to see where Sarah was staying, and immediately I saw Mike's car parked in the driveway. I parked my car, went and knocked at the door. Dogan answered the front door, and in the background I could see Mike and Sarah kissing in the kitchen. My heart sank and my jaw dropped. I had a feeling things would end up this way, but to see it right in front of me absolutely crushed me. I shoved Dogan out the way and asked Mike and Sarah what was going on. Mike was too cowardly to talk, but Sarah told me to point blank that she was, quote, choosing to be with Mike right now, and said she would be willing to give our relationship a try in the near future, and she told me that if I dropped the issue of the prenup, she'd be more likely to get back together with me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her that this was the most callous and manipulative crap I've ever dealt with in nearly 20 years of dating. I turned over to Dogan and Betty and told them they'd raised a jerk who was just like them, and I asked them if they were proud. Dogan and Betty immediately start screaming about suing me again. But I reminded them that in real life, neither of them would be able to afford a lawyer. I told them both they better hope I don't sue them at some point. Amongst Mike, Sarah, Dogan, and Betty all screaming at me at once, I finally decided that I've had enough. I've been fighting over the love of my life long enough, and I was surrendering. I walked right out of their house and shut the door without saying another word. They were still screaming at me as I was getting in my car and driving away. It's been 6 weeks since then, and I'm with Maria now. We split up years ago because we weren't right for each other at the time, but neither of us could deny that. In a bizarre way, all this turmoil with my fiancé has brought us so close together, oh so closer than ever before. Throughout all of this, Maria was the one person who stood up for me, even when my best friend betrayed me. Most of my family members are deceased, but Maria has helped me feel like I'm not so alone in this world. As I type this, me and Maria are in Paris, getting ready for a date. I'm in the hotel room while she's prepping her outfit, and what are Sarah and Mike up to? I don't know. I don't care. I'm in love with Maria. Thank you all for listening to the story. Some of you said I should be with Maria, and I wish I would have listened sooner.
Alright, so I want to hear from you guys. How would you handle this situation, knowing that this all started over a prenuptial agreement, and now your best friend's involved, those nightmare mother-in-law and father-in-laws involved, and it's just a giant mess? Knowing all this, let me know in the comment section how you would go about handling it. Maybe you would have done it differently. I don't know. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe while you're at it, and I will see you guys tomorrow for a brand new video.